Back to Minnesota on a 3-game losing streak, which has seen him throw 6 interceptions, no touchdowns, and he posts a passer rating of 59. The Start Penix crowd growing louder here, Greg. For Kirk in his homecoming to Minnesota, is this a must-win?
Yeah, this is a must-win for Kirk Cousins. Look, they've lost 3 straight games. He's having a homecoming, going back into the bank. Like, you got to try to find a way to get back on the winning side of things. And when you look at how he's been playing, throwing the ball to the opposing team, you're going into a hostile environment, Kirk, that you're familiar with, and they are very familiar with you. They create and generate turnovers. They pressure the quarterback. You're going to be forced to throw the ball under duress and pressure. They know you better than anybody. Can you get it done? There may be a warm embrace, but trust me, that defense wants everything that you don't want, and that's that football going to them. So for me, this is a must-win. This team is leading their division right now, but by a slim margin. If they continue to slip, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are right there saying, "Give me that back."
And it's a must-win for Kirk, but it's also a must-win for that Falcons front office, because they gave Kirk not only $90 million fully guaranteed, but also a no-trade clause. So if Kirk gets beat up in this game, and they, by the way, after this, Vegas, Giants, Washington, Carolina. So Vegas, Giants, maybe the 2 worst teams in football. Washington's defense ain't great. Carolina, we'll see what they are at the end of the year. Frisky right now, we all know that. The fans will say, give us Michael Penix for the stretch run, try to save the division, and he probably would look good against those teams. He'd be the best quarterback on the field against Vegas, the best quarterback on the field against the Giants for sure. And then what do you do if you're Atlanta? I understand they were like, oh, we knew when we signed him and drafted Penix, 2 tracks, all this stuff. They did not plan to pay Kirk Cousins $90 million for 1 season of football and then not be able to trade him except to his preferred destination because he has a no trade. So for a lot of people involved with the Falcons, it's very important Kirk play well and they win this game.
Okay, let's talk about this, because I understand what Nick is saying. I definitely wholeheartedly agree with, Greg. I don't think Nick is necessarily wrong, but I think it's the whole no trade clause. The no trade clause, I think, is a little being blown out of proportion a little bit, because if Kirk is not starting, if he's not playing and he's on the bench, like, he's not going to just want to sit there. Like, he will go anywhere. Honestly, why would you not? You would play for the Giants, the Panthers, the Jaguars. I'm just making up teams, like teams that are not good, even though if they have a quarterback. I'm just saying, like, why would he not? He would play anywhere. He's going to want to still play. Sure, he would maybe not want to be traded if he was going to be traded to another team and he was going to be the backup there or something, because then he's like, well, I'm just going to stay in Atlanta. And maybe some of you big Kirk Cousins fans will know this. I don't. Like, did he move his family from Minnesota to Atlanta? Are his kids in school now in Atlanta and all of that? I don't know. I haven't looked that up. So if anyone knows, please definitely let me know. But even then, I don't know how much it would really matter when you live the life that the Cousins do, quite frankly, and the amount of money that you all make. It's obviously not the easiest thing to uproot your family and do all that and stuff with your children, but quite frankly, anytime you're moving like that, it's going to be disruptive. So I hear what he's saying. If anything, the question would be, would someone want to trade for him? Would someone want to take on that money? Would it be one of those things where they have to kind of, eat some of the money? Again, I'm not a trade expert or a salary cap expert or any of that type of stuff, how that would unfold. So I don't think that would necessarily be the worst thing ever, but who honestly really knows? But yeah, this is absolutely a must win for Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. They could lose a division. I mean, which would be wild, quite frankly, considering what the Panthers have looked like, what the Saints have looked like, how the Buccaneers have had all their injuries that they've had. Like, this should be a division that they should be able to win. And a lot of people, myself included, thought with a fully functioning, healthy Kirk Cousins looking like if he did how he had in the last couple of years, this team would be like a legitimate playoff team, a legitimate contender to do some damage and be trouble in the NFC. And obviously that's not how it's unfolding right now. And again, we can blame some various injuries, whether it to be Kirk himself or for other players. That's all fair game as well. But to just look at it right now, today, this week, Sunday at 1 o'clock, like none of that stuff matters right now. And there are calls to now, bench Kirk Cousins. So he has to play great. I mean, it's not that he has to play great, but he has to look like a legitimate starting quarterback. You have to feel that this is you have the best chance to win with this quarterback. And then there's kind of two paths that follow this. If he's not, and it's clear, and they don't put in Penix, that signals one of two things. One, well, then you are a very poorly run team that can't make the hard decisions and can't just do what needs to be done, which is obviously not good. Or two, Penix hasn't looked ready in practices and stuff, and there's no confidence that he'll be able to actually be better than Kirk Cousins when push comes to shove. Which again, I'm not saying either is true or not. I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't play, that would be a big problem. Because then the other question is, if he plays and Penix ends up actually looking really good, and it looks like, hey, I'm the starter now, well then, yeah, obviously it was a bad contract with Kirk Cousins, and you have the problem with the no trade clause and stuff like that. It's frustrating, but whatever. You'll find a way through it. You'll find a way through it. Denver Broncos certainly did. They're happy with their decision. The 49ers, I know they're all banged up, but the 49ers, before they had all their injuries, they managed it. They had Trey Lance, and they didn't have to pay him, obviously, but they had draft capital and stuff. Jimmy Garoppolo, they paid all that money, although at that point, when it was time to kind of move on from him, the money was probably not necessarily the biggest deal, especially because obviously quarterback contracts just kept getting higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. But you find a way through it. If Penix is actually your legitimate starter for the next 5+ years, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Then this team would be instantly better and more competitive. And so again, you would be frustrated when you're trying to look at the potential of this team and how great they could be. You would be annoyed and you would say, oh man, if only they didn't do this, we could be better. But you would still be happy and confident and comfortable with the direction of the team and what they're able to do. Because if they're at this right now, at their record and playing how they are, and if we're going to say that Penix would be like a legitimate step up, well, then add another couple more wins. Then it's like, all right, baby, we're good. We're legitimately winning this division. We're right in there. We're not only going to win the division, but like we're set to win a playoff game or two. And again, if that's not the reality of the situation, well, then your team's just more of a mess, honestly. Because then you have Cousins who's not that good. And then again, if we're reaching the conclusion that Penix is just not ready yet or just not good, and then that was a bad draft pick, like then things just kind of spiral and get messier and messier and messier. It would be kind of a similar situation if the 49ers didn't get lucky with Brock Purdy. Because there's a very real chance that Brock Purdy was just truly the last pick in the draft and not good. Then you got Trey Lance, who's a mess. Jimmy Garoppolo's injured. Brock Purdy is just not good. And then it's just like, well, then you have no chance of doing anything. So better believe that the 49ers were very fortunate that at the minimum that Brock Purdy was at least a starting quarterback in the NFL and could obviously help get your team to a Super Bowl, which he obviously has proven. So yeah, the Falcons have like real decisions to make now. And you can't do this whole sunken cost fallacy where if Kirk Cousins is truly the guy that you need to move on from, you don't say, well, we already spent all this money on him. We have to see this through. That's not what you do. It's a fallacy. Now, I'm also not saying that you abandon Kirk Cousins just because of a few bad games stretch. Like you have to put everything in together. You have to look at, well, why is this happening? Was this just a collection of some bad games? How did he look in his good games? Was he truly playing great, or was he fortunate? Was he playing bad teams, bad defenses? Was it luck? Was there some too many blown coverages? You have to really kind of dissect it. Compare that to what Penix is doing in practice, his comfortability, his rapport with the other players and the team itself, the coaching staff. This isn't just like one. You're not just looking at this through one lens or one variable. Kirk Cousins has been losing and throwing interceptions. Start Penix. That's not the way it works. That's what a bad franchise will do. That is what a team that has no actual direction or understanding. Because let's say they really want Penix to be the future and they don't want to play him this year, but then it doesn't matter what Kirk Cousins is doing. You apologize to the team, you apologize to the coaching staff, but you say, you know what, we're sticking to our guns. We really want Penix to rest this whole season. We don't want to just throw him in randomly into the fire for these last few games. We don't want to disrupt that. We don't want to do that. Maybe the last game of the season when there's truly zero expectations. We're already not making the playoffs or something, or we're in the playoffs and the game doesn't matter. You know, maybe in one of those situations where we know we can literally just put him in a bubble and put him out there, not unlike the Chiefs did with the Mahomes. Or at least a closer scenario than that. They didn't throw Mahomes and say, please save our season. Alex Smith is not doing good. Like, that's obviously not how it happened. And it can be very disruptive for a young quarterback. What if they threw in Bo Nix randomly in the middle of the season? Would he look as good as he looks right now? Absolutely not. He had to go through his growing pains earlier on in the season. Now imagine if he only had those first few games and then the season ended. What confidence would people have about going into the season with Bo Nix? Even Jaden Daniels, just his first couple games. Yeah, they weren't maybe as bad, but they didn't look like his middle games. Same thing with Caleb. Did I say Jaden Williams? Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams? I don't know if I combined those names together. So that's why you got to be smart. You got to be strategic. You can't panic. If you realize this is not your year, then adjust. If you think that this year can still be your year and you could still do some damage, well then make the right decision. And quite frankly, this is one of those decisions that I really confidently believe that we don't have enough information. I don't have enough information. The guys, you know, at the desk don't have enough information. It's the coaching staff and the players that are there at practices. They're the ones that know what's going on with Kirk Cousins. Has he been looking good in practice? Is this a bad stretch? How does Penix look? It's all that stuff. All that stuff is kind of, you know, variables that you have to look at. And, you know, you can't just listen to fans. You can't listen to random people on TV. Like, it's really got to come down to what does the coaching staff see? And will the owner allow it as well? Or the GM or whoever's really going to make that final call on this situation? Because honestly, it just feels like we're just a few weeks away, you know, before where it was like everybody was praising and hugging Kirk Cousins. And now it's bench Kirk Cousins. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins? What do you think they should do, especially if they lose? Do you think this is a must-win? I mean, it's obviously a must-win. It's, you know, what kind of question even is that? But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.